My name is Judy Canales, and I serve as the administrator for the United States Department of Agriculture, Rural Development, Rural Business and Cooperative Programs is my agency. And I'm so pleased to join y'all here today for this marvelous agenda that I have to commend Liz Bailey once again has put together a very thorough and also informative group gathering of speakers and presenters that I know we're going to learn a lot from today. Before I proceed any further, it's always my custom to recognize my colleagues, and I have a couple of them who are here. In particular, you're going to have another one who will speak to y'all later on, but Bruce Reynolds has joined us. He's in my agency. Bruce is concentrating specifically on the issue of housing as one of the viable interests within the cooperative arena. And so, Bruce, thank you so much for your presence. And also, Dan Campbell, who's here, my colleague, who is the wonderful publisher of the Cooperatives magazine. You know, folks, make sure that you all take a look at it, because Dan, it's remarkable as to what you've been able to document through the years, all of the wonderful work that's occurring throughout the United States in cooperatives throughout in various states, and now it's become more and more diverse as part of his reporting. And so, wonderful magazine that I want to tout. So thank you guys for being here. And indeed, as Liz stated, this 2012 being declared by the United Nations the International Year of Cooperatives. And so I'm pleased as the administrator for the one agency in the federal government that actually has cooperatives in its name, Rural Business Cooperative Programs. I have two big divisions that I am responsible for, and of course you all probably know that USDA Rural Development administers our programs working through not only the national office and my colleagues who are here, but through our field structure of 47 state offices. And so if you've not met our state director in each one, in the state that you live in, I mean, that is a must do. That'll be part of your homework and your takeaway. And in addition to that, though, is our business program director, who is responsible for the day-to-day administering of the business programs in that state, who therefore, that person will wear many hats, cooperative being one of them. Or you may in a state also have, and this is something that I have been pushing for as far as our delivery system, is to actually have someone else in the office, in addition to our business program director, who has that expertise on cooperatives. And we've been building a very nice structure, field structure to that effect. So someone like y'all, many of y'all know Margaret Bow, who was here from Wisconsin, and of course she's prominent in that role, and we'd like to have more Margarets throughout the United States who are concentrating on cooperatives, because indeed, as we build upon the efforts of rural development, and note what today's agenda is about in focusing on housing, but last year, as Liz noted, was healthcare, and there is constantly diversion, or I should say diversity within among the cooperative network that we have to manage. So let's talk about that. Now, Liz also talked to you all about some of the data, the numbers, what is actually the face of cooperatives in the United States. And we commissioned the University of Wisconsin Center for Cooperatives a couple of years ago to do a deep dive and recognition of what is the state of cooperatives in the United States. And they did so. And were able to determine 29,000 cooperatives, $652 billion in revenue, $152 billion in income, and $75 billion in wages. Folks, what I want to put forward to you is that in this challenging economic time, where we see corporate America, where we see businesses challenged, struggling, diversifying, having to reinvent themselves, cooperatives actually were able to stay steady. it was that a steady, strong presence in community that I think is something that we must continue to support and build upon. And most importantly within that is that development, that support of over 2 million jobs in the United States. So that means not only are we generating that revenue, but families depend upon these organizations in their communities. It's that stable force. Myself coming from rural South Texas and coming from a small town and having had a chance to visit probably all the states that are present here today in my almost 3 years on the job, that I see what is occurring in a rural community. What we're trying to do is invest and maintain that quality of life presence through the cooperative network is profound in making that happen, in having that solid base. But I also wanted to point out to you is that, again, cooperatives are very diverse, and the University of Wisconsin report made that quite apparent. The largest type of cooperatives, or the biggest sector, I should say, because there are sectors within the cooperative community, is actually credit unions. That's the largest sector. Farm credit, mutual insurance, so financial. That is the largest sector. The second largest sector, as again within the study, is commercial sales and marketing. So again, another aspect that's crucial to services, how communities can benefit from banding together, from unifying together. The third largest sector within cooperatives is utilities. So electric, telephone, water cooperatives. And the fourth largest sector is a sector that we're about here today, is social and public service. And that is housing, healthcare, daycare, cooperatives, a whole variety. And that stands for $7.5 billion in revenues, and 11,300 cooperatives in the United States are within that sector. So this is something that we're highly involved in. Notice once again, here we are at U.S. Department of Agriculture, but it's not just about agriculture, it's agriculture plus. Why are people seeking manufactured housing? Because it's an affordable choice. It's attainable. It's there, and so therefore, people are all wanting to find their own place to be and raise their family in a safe place, and that becomes an option for people. And so, how do we get the most for that investment that people are making, that families are making, and so. It's a challenging time again, but it's part of the reality. It's part of the lay of the land. How can we do better? And it's also a chance to see how folks who do own a manufactured housing unit, and oftentimes maybe renting their spot, the land where they live, and where they place their home, how can we become more firm and preserve that and have a place that will not be an unsteady scenario? So I say all that to you because there's plenty of opportunity here. Y'all are going to be learning more about it. I wanted to make sure that you know, though, that rural development within my agency also has some financial tools that may be part of your action plan as you proceed. I talked already about the RCDGs, which is more the technical assistance side. But what happens when you actually want to have the actual structures? What is it going to take? Our Business and Industry Loan Guarantee Program, which is a loan guarantee that we make to a bank. The bank, of course, makes that loan to a business, but it's a way to garner access to credit in rural areas, to get more community banks to lend, to get banks to lend, period. And by using this loan guarantee, I want to give you a couple of examples. One is actually in Kentucky, and it's in Bowling Green, called Chandler Park Assisted Living. And it was a $9.2 million guaranteed loan for a total, that was a part of a total project of $12 million, used to assist with the expansion of this assisted living facility to add 16 new living units for this particular development. Assisted living is also part of what we do in supporting. And again, this is critical because it's a way for people to be able to stay in those communities that they are from. And it's a way to keep that presence and just so people won't be unsettled by having to move to a larger city, another city. Another example is a development, also a $9 million loan guarantee that was made to Valparaiso in Indiana, and it was also a 127-bed assisted living, nursing, residential care facility for the elderly, and this provides continuous care. Again, a place that is safe, secure for elderly. And so these are business opportunities, but they're needed businesses in our rural areas. And this is something that this loan guarantee was able to support. Those are just a couple of examples. But I wanted to make sure that you all knew that we have these tools available. We have the technical assistance. We have the resources to be your partner. And indeed, we work line in line with ensuring that there's more affordable housing. There is, of course, the presence of cooperatives in our rural areas, and indeed that our rural residents have a quality of life that matches no other.
We have had this conversation before about cooperative housing, and I know all of us in the room agree that the power and impact of housing cooperatives extends to those of us who are looking to build wealth as well as control our housing, and at the same time provides important benefits to communities, given the stabilizing impact of cooperators and cooperatives. Haven't cooperatives continued to quietly set records for the last 40 or 50 years with the lowest defaults among HUD-endorsed mortgages as compared to investor-owned and nonprofit mortgages? Haven't we continued to piece, and I mean scrap together, to sponsor affordable cooperative housing while the rest of the country has been happily and with great prosper building rental housing with billions of dollars a year of low-income housing tax credit support since the Tax Reform Act of 1986? That's billions of dollars a year for 25 years. And from many perspectives, and from my perspective, squandering much of these precious resources as owners of rental housing have prospered and renters have built no wealth and have not had the opportunity to use housing to take more control over their lives. And now that the country and its homeowners have lost more than $7.38 trillion in real estate equity and wealth in the housing bubble and collapse, do you think co-ops might have been a better investment? Do you think? Rhetorical, right? What can we possibly do for an encore with respect to proving the value of cooperatives when the National Cooperative Bank reported that of 4,386 co-op building loans, none were in foreclosure as of June 2011, and the delinquency rate was less than 1%, 1/100th of 1%. Is anyone listening out there? Haven't we had this conversation before? To what end then today? Because we, along with many other national partners, are taking a hard look at homeownership program again and realizing that cooperatives, again, can play a very important role in providing homeownership to the many Americans that can manage the responsibility and who deserve the opportunity and the right to reap the benefits. What do I have to say to you today as we yet again consider cooperative solutions for affordable urban and rural housing for families and older Americans? I'm going to boil it down to 8 points. Some of it's good news, some of it is the same old news. Point 1, Mike Sloss will tell you this. Actually, Mike Sloss should have written this. Policymakers are uniformly under siege and wavering about what tools really work, particularly in the face of accelerating needs for affordable housing on the one hand and declining public revenues on the other. In the face of so much need, they are open to new ideas, or in our case, it's an old idea, expressed in a new way. In fact, some of these public and private nonprofit agencies have joined with us in something we called Cornerstone Partnership to build a peer network for homeownership programs that's based on preserving long-term community stability and affordability and actually measuring results. And co-ops fit that bill. Point 2, think strategically all you want, but act tactically. I can't tell you how many times in over 30 years I've gotten requests for financing, and I've had to deny them because of the size, timing, or you'll recognize this one for co-ops, quirky circumstances. In a co-op project, I won't go into what they are, but my God, there have been many of them. Still goes without saying that although your thinking regarding the use of cooperatives should be strategic, you've got to be tactical as you try to sell your investments in co-ops to resolve the many barriers that confront you. And that means you've got to be flexible and thoughtful with respect to size, timing, and location. So please, in all deference to the 5 or 6 units in Wisconsin, anything under 20 units is really difficult to underwrite and to finance. Besides, given the time required to put a deal like that together, you might as well shoot for doubling that number. And it could be if you're in a rural area, you don't have the demand, so I would understand. But otherwise, they're hard to finance. On the other hand, the capitalization required above 50 units is very significant, so you've got to be realistic about the possibilities. And while I'm at it, location obviously matters. Co-ops in New York, Madison, Manchester, or Seattle, very different enterprise than trying to do them in Parkersburg or Houston or Rochester. Point 3, although I can show you that co-ops as a form of shared equity housing are a better deal than just about any other form of affordable housing where much of the subsidy leaves with the first generation of homeowners, Mike Sloss will tell you this, there is an ongoing war out there for subsidy, and everyone in their group wants it. So the competition is fierce, the winners are few. You've got to be prepared to make a clear and convincing case for scarce public dollars. Point 3A, in terms of that case, focus on buyers who need help but are likely to succeed. Not everyone is going to succeed. And based on your own form of affordable housing, you'll decide who can succeed. But again, scarce resources, people have to be in a strong position to succeed. The country obviously failed in its policies and practices to make homeowners out of all of us at any cost, and we don't want to do that again. Point 3B, in terms of making the case, build wealth for owners while preserving the community interest. I know you all want to do this, and you want to attempt to maximize the impact of public funding, and that means balancing the needs of your community, which has the long-term need for affordable housing, but also the needs of homeowners that want to build wealth, that want to take control, and you're going to have to balance both. Point 4 starts with a question, Mike Sloss. I keep picking on Mike. And Terry Simonet and all you other lenders out there. How do you capitalize your project when your banker seems to be in the capital recovery business rather than in the lending business? Way too focused on getting the money back, not focused enough on putting money out there that's going to do the job. And the fact of the matter is that traditional debt, mission debt, impact investments, all figure prominently as important tools for developing co-op housing today. Unfortunately, again, the competition for debt is just as stiff as the competition for subsidy. So don't fail out of the box by not understanding basic collateral and debt service requirements. There's no way around them, and do focus on impact again. It's likely that the sources of subsidy and debt are going to be interested in playing to the same tune, and if you're selling co-op impact, I think you will be making nice music. Point 5, the 90s are coming back. The 1890s, that is. That is a punchline from Portlandia. And the point is that we live in a time where many of us are embracing anti-corporate sentiment, a reliance on local, cooperative businesses and social purpose ventures. Timing is everything, and the timing is right for co-ops. Walden Swanson would say, you know, we go through these cycles of me and we. We're definitely in a we cycle, focused on shared sacrifice, paying your fair share, and giving back. Co-ops definitely fit that theme. Point 6, it takes a village, but this village is online, and it's a different world. It was Hillary Clinton that first made It Takes a Village famous, but the key here is recognizing that the world or village we live in now, in fact, is connected electronically. This village is online, can be subject to our influence in both organizational settings as individual consumers, to wit, one Joseph Kony. Thanks to a viral online campaign, 75 million people learned about the African warlord 2 weeks ago electronically. In terms of order of magnitude, these same masses can be subject to the things that we believe in with respect to cooperatives. Point 7, steward the public investment to ensure long-term benefit. Public investment in affordable home ownership should be actively and professionally managed for maximum community benefit. Again, with the trillions of dollars wasted in dreams of home ownership that have been lost as a country, these are not just real estate transactions. They're precious resources that need to be nurtured and managed by stewards who are competent and stable. Point last, this is also my closing, and I would be afraid to say this in the Hall of Fame, so this smaller group is better. My last comment is a thought that's restated in that old saying, or that's related to that old saying, I don't care what you call me, but don't call me late for dinner. Sometime in the co-op sector, we get defensive and want to sell and defend the label rather than the outcome. The fact is that when you sell co-ops, you have to sometimes sell their history and some of its baggage, and that's not always useful. Today's world, people are interested in collaboration, networking, shared responsibility, financial feasibility, and impact. If you're sensing co-op brand resistance, think about what you want people to think, to feel, and to say about your program, and that's what you need to sell. We are very proud of the label of co-op, but in affordable housing circles, if it means dropping or de-emphasizing this four-letter word, then that's what you may need to do. Thank you.